Good evening. Welcome to the culmination of 16 weeks of intense competition, when men and women from all over Australia and New Zealand have measured the challenge of television's toughest quiz. And finally tonight, the climax, as the winners from the 4 semi-finals meet once again to face the 5 Krypton factor tests to determine who will be the first ever superperson of Australasia. Once again, let's meet tonight's contestants. Our first New Zealand finalist, Dean Soul, the 22-year-old import consultant from Palmerston North. Our first Australian finalist, Chris Connolly, the 21-year-old engineering student from New South Wales. Our second New Zealand finalist, John Cargill, the 35-year-old laboratory technician from Auckland. And our second Australian finalist, 23-year-old Allan Williams, the law and science student from Sydney. Who will win the Krypton factor? Let's find out. In this last chance to demonstrate their mental agility, our finalists can increase their Krypton factor by using a numerical factor. Contestants, I'll give you a series of numbers and a factor. What you have to do is repeat the numbers in the same order, but multiplied by the given factor. So, to make it perfectly clear, let me give you an example. If I say 1, 2, 3, 4, with a factor of 5, you reply 5, 10, 15, 20. We start with you, Dean. 3, 9, 2, 5, with a factor of 3.
9, 27, 6, 15.
Correct. Chris. 5, 8, 2, 3, with a factor of 3.
15, 24, 6, 9.
Correct. John. 4, 7, 1, 2, with a factor of 3.
12, 21, 3, 6.
Correct. Allan. 3, 6, 2, 7, with a factor of 3.
9, 18, 6, 21.
Correct. A clear round. Dean. 5, 7, 8, 6, 3, with a factor of 10.
50, 70, 80, 60, 30.
Correct. Chris. 3, 7, 8, 4, 5, with a factor of 10.
30, 70, 80, 40, 50.
Correct. John. 5, 9, 6, 4, 3, with a factor of 10.
50, 90, 60, 40, 30.
Correct. And Allan. 7, 9, 8, 6, 3, with a factor of 10.
70, 90, 80, 60, 30.
Correct. Into round 3. Dean. 18, 6, 38, 4, with a factor of a half.
4, 3, 18.
No, bad luck, Dean. The answer I wanted was 9, 3, 19, 2. So you've been eliminated in round 3. Chris. 16, 8, 36, 2, with a factor of a half.
8, 4, 18, 1.
That is correct. John. 14, 2, 34, 6, with a factor of a half.
7, 1, 16, 3.
No, you two have been eliminated. The answer I wanted was 7, 1, 17, 3. Allan. 16, 4, 36, 6, with a factor of a half.
8, 2, 18, 3.
Correct. Into round 4. Chris. 17, 47, 28, 35, with a factor of 2.
34, 94, 56, 70.
You are correct. Allan. 16, 49, 28, 35, with a factor of 2.
32, 98, 28.
No, you're incorrect. It was 32, 98, and 28 with a factor of 2, 56, and 70. So we have a winner. So at the end of the round, let's put the scores on the scoreboard, where we see that Dean Soul scored 2, Chris Connolly 10, John Cargill 2, and Allan Williams 6. So at the end of round 1, the leader with a Krypton factor of 10 is Chris Connolly. Now to the test that many of you at home enjoy, and so do we. The observation test, where we ask our contestants to spot the 5 differences between the 2 takes of our mini masterpieces. Contestants, would you put on your headphones, turn to your screens, and concentrate all those powers of observation. Take 1.
Is that a 5 or a 6?
Right! Nobody move! You! Up against that wall! Hand over the money! Right! Put your hands where I can see them.
That's just what I've been telling him.
You, open the safe. Turn that off. Give us the cash.
Right.
The police.
No, the security company. I'm sick of the way their staff collect the takings.
Take 2.
Is that a 5 or a 6?
Right! Nobody move! You! Up against that wall! Hand over the money! Right! Put your hands where I can see them.
That's just what I've been telling him.
You, open the safe. Turn that off. Give us the cash.
Right.
The police.
No, the security company. I'm sick of the way their staff collect the takings.
Contestants, you've seen and heard both versions. Turn toward its please and write down the differences you've observed. While they do that, how did you get on at home this final time? Here are all the 5 differences. Number 1 was a change in the action. In take 1, the gun was held in the right hand, but in take 2, it was in the left. Next, the second robber's helmet visor, there throughout take 1, but it had disappeared in take 2. Number 3 was the bank manager's signet ring, clearly visible in take 1, but in take 2, he wasn't wearing it. Then the music. In take 1, Dixie.
Turn that off.
But in take 2, Maria Elena.
Turn that off.
And finally, the telephones. There were 2 on the desk in take 1, but only 1 in take 2. Now the contestants' observations, let's put their scores on the scoreboard, where we see that Dean Soul spotted 3 differences. Chris Connolly 1, John Cargill 2, and Allan Williams, bad luck for him, he didn't see any differences in the 2 versions. So, at the end of round 2, with a Krypton factor of 12, the leader is still Chris Connolly. For the assault course, and for tonight's finalists, the 3rd time down the 400-meter torture track. And as well as the additional obstacle they faced in the semis, tonight, a further surprise, as Buff Milner waits with the starter's gun.
Competitors, are you ready?
And with the firing of the starter's gun for the grand final, first away is New Zealand's John Cargill.
Go!
Next, New Zealander Dean Soul in blue, and Australians Chris Connolly in yellow, and Allan Williams in green. You'll notice in the background that Chris Connelly in yellow is limping badly. Unfortunately, he suffered a sporting injury at the weekend, and there's no way he'll be able to keep pace with the other three competitors. However, if he completes the course, he will, of course, collect 2 points. And as Dean and Allan catch up to John on the scramble, you can see from the tremendous pace and determination they're using to tackle the net that this is to be a closely contested grand final assault course. And it's John who's first down to the wire crawl. Dean over the hurdle, through the somewhat muddy conditions to join him. And Allan hurling himself under the wire. Just look at Dean go. But it's John who'll be out first. Neck and neck for second and third. John's away over the low hurdles. The course is very wet. There's been a lot of rain over the last 2 days. John takes the rope swing. Same for Dean and Allan. And it's off at a cracking pace to the low catwalk. Only seconds in front, John drops into the mud. Takes a swinging plank at incredible speed. You really can't afford to ease up this pace at all. Dean and Allan are right there behind him every step of the way. Allan slightly in front on the stepping stones. John away first on the bars, but Allan Williams is only 1 bar behind him. And as they drop, it's virtually a dead heat. He's moving slow. Whoops, that's bad luck. The bars are very slippery from a shower we had about 10 minutes ago. And it's Allan who's ahead out of the tunnel. Up the ramp. Away on the rope. On and up to the Burma Bridge. Dean's second attempt. A slight hesitation. Oh, but he's made it off safely and it's off to the tunnel. Up front, Allan's moving strongly, determined to hang on to the lead. But John's got a longer reach, and it's giving him the advantage here. Dean running 2 obstacles behind the leaders. Allan's first off the bridge. Through Buff Milner's added grand final attraction, the tyres. Now, because conditions are so wet today, a net's been substituted on the high wall with soaking wet shoes. There'd be no way the contestants would make it over with just a rope. Allan lands well. He took a chance dropping more than twice his height. John's a little more cautious. Off now to the wall climb to try and catch this man who's 12 years his junior. Dean is still 2 obstacles behind the leaders. Allan is first to the top. And he's first away. Swinging his body for added speed. John's doing the same in a desperate attempt to catch him. But Allan is first down to a good landing and under the net. But look at the speed of John Cargill's landing. This is going to be a very close race. Dean in third is just over the wall. Chris is moving as fast as he can. But just look at this. We've never had a race this close before. Neck and neck over the hurdle. It'll be won on the sprint by a matter of mere centimetres. Allan dives, but it's New Zealand's John Cargill first. Australian Allan Williams second. What an incredible finish. Dean Sol from New Zealand launches down the Flying Fox. Australian Chris Connolly off the bridge, limping painfully through the tyres. Good landing for Dean. Very wisely, he's heading for the centre of the ground net. Chris struggling valiantly up the 3.5-metre high wall. But it's practically all over for Dean Sol. Over the hurdle and a jog home for third place and 4 points. Now here comes the man who probably deserves most of our sympathy and admiration here today, climbing the long hall to the start of the Flying Fox, the youngest Krypton Factor finalist, Chris Connolly, facing the rigours of the Burnham assault course with a very painfully torn leg muscle. But he's made it to the top, and at last the finish is in sight. Now, before the race, Chris was given the all clear to participate by the Army doctor. But even with his leg protectively strapped, it's obvious that he's in a fair amount of pain. This is bad luck for Chris, because each time he's run the course before, he's finished first. Still, full marks for trying today. He's almost there. Over the hurdle. Ooh, with a smile on his face. Here he comes for two extremely well-deserved points. The toughest conditions we've faced in the series. How close a finish can you get? Let's put the scores on the scoreboard. Dean Soul scored 4, Chris Connolly 2, John Cargill 10, and Allan Williams 6. So after round 3 with a Krypton factor of 16, the leader is John Cargill. Tonight, making the right connection. Contestants, would you come down to your respective puzzles? In front of you, on the frame, you'll notice dots of a similar color. What you have to do is, using the colored strips provided, join up the dots of the same color so that green dots are joined by green strips, blue dots by blue strips, and so on. However, since this is a final, to make it more interesting, you mustn't let any of the colored lines cross each other. We start now. And so to the very last intelligence test of the series. And in the tradition of these tests, one that has a little more to it than meets the eye, incorporating the application of logical perception. In front of each contestant, the frame contains 5 pairs of different colored dots: red, green, blue, yellow, and purple. Our finalists have been supplied with strips of correspondingly colored plastic pieces with which to join the dots. And as you've heard, they must ensure that these strips don't cross each other. So these plastic strips are the obvious key to the puzzle, and a close examination of all the strips of each color will give the contestants a pretty good idea of which path to take. Allan Williams working on the red, and although it doesn't really matter too much which color is worked on first, logically it ought to be the one with fewest pieces, and that color is green. That's the color John Cargill's working on. Chris Connolly's completed the purple. But Dean Soul is in trouble with the blue. He's crossed the red dot. Chris Connolly's going great guns. That's the yellow completed. Allan is too far south with the red. That'll block the yellow. Chris is moving really well here. Collecting 10 points for this test would certainly help him offset his disappointment on the assault course. John Cargill on the right, deep in thought. Dean Soul from New Zealand, Allan Williams from Australia. But it's Chris Connolly who's closest to completion, only the final path of the blue to form. New Zealander John Cargill on form with the red, but that green will have to be changed. This looks like the home run for Chris. Yes, there it is. Well done. First place and 10 points. Williams placing another piece, but as the camera zooms back, we can see that he's got major problems with the red and the yellow. And that's not working for Dean either. The red's running through the yellow dot. Time for a ponder. So far, so good for John Cargill. Allan making adjustments in his mind. Dean's fixed the problem with the yellow, but the blue is still running through the red. Allan's removed the yellow, he's correcting the purple. John Cargill working methodically. Dean Soul tackling the problem at the top of the frame he had with the blue. Now Allan's fine with the blue and the purple, but he'll have to move quicker than this. Nearly there for New Zealand's Dean Soul. Just the red. That's it. Well done. Second place and 6 points. Allan puts the finishing touches to the green. But it's John Cargill who's going to be third. And there it is. Well done and 4 useful points. So to Australia's Allan Williams, who won this test in his semi last week.
He puts the finishing touches to the red. All that's left is to lay the yellow pathway. 2 more pieces. There it is, all complete, and 2 points.
Well, his injured knee may have slowed Chris Connelly on the assault course, but he more than made up for that by fairly speeding through the intelligence test. Let's put the scores on the scoreboard, where we see that Dean Soul has scored 6, Chris Connelly the possible 10, John Cargill 4, and Allan Williams 2. So, after round 4, back in the lead with a Krypton factor of 24, it's Chris Connelly. Now to the last round of the grand final, 2 minutes of quick-fire general knowledge questions to be answered on the buzzer. A point for every correct answer, a point off for an incorrect answer, and a point off for those who press the buzzer and can't answer. We start the clock now. What part of a crab is its carapace? John?
The shell.
Correct. What? The pigment carotene is a rich source of which vitamin? John?
Vitamin A.
Correct. What is the natural domain of the Greek god Aeolus? John?
The air.
Correct. What do you call the vibrating tongue in woodwind instruments? Dean?
Reed.
Correct. Which French artist used vivid colours for his paintings The Red Studio and Dean?
Renoir.
No, Henri Matisse. Which title of a play by Anton Chekhov contains a pink or red stone fruit? The answer is The Cherry Orchard. What alcoholic drink sometimes uses cherries and has a date? Dean?
Kirsch.
No, brandy. Who wrote a series of Brandenburg concertos? John?
Bach.
Correct. The bark of which evergreen Mediterranean tree is harvested for cork? John?
Oak. Cork.
Correct. How many days has October? Dean?
31.
Correct. The sum of the interior angles of which geometrical figure is equal to 180 degrees? Dean?
Triangle.
Correct. Which pieces occupy the corner squares at the start of a chess? Allan?
The rooks.
Rook or castle? Correct. Which player in this year's Wimbledon men's singles quarterfinals was a Czechoslovakian? Allan?
Slobodan Zinobin.
Ivan Lendl. When a player fails to keep both feet behind the baseline during a tennis serve, it's called what kind of fault, Dean?
A foot fault.
Correct. Which major nerve extends from the back of the thigh to the calf of the leg? Allan?
Sciatic.
Correct. Who was the male star of the films Daddy Long Legs and Top Hat? Allan?
Fred Astaire.
Correct. At the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, who gets thrust into a teapot? Chris?
The Dormouse.
Correct. Who accompanied Per Lindstrand in a hot air balloon across the Atlantic in July of this year? Dean?
Richard Branson.
Correct. What is the term for the system of orientation used principally by whales? Echo sounding or sonar would do. Which is the highest peak in Africa? Dean?
Kilimanjaro.
Correct. What element is alloyed with zinc to make brass? Dean?
Copper.
Correct. What name was given in former times to the chief magistrate of Venice? Dean?
The Dodge.
The Doge is correct. In which town was King Arthur's palace and court? John?
Camelot.
Correct. What is the medical name for the chemical messengers formed in animals by endocrine glands? Dean?
Hormones.
Correct. George Gershwin wrote us No, it's all over. And we have a winner with a Krypton factor of 26, John Cargill. John, congratulations, mate. You have fought. You've struggled long and hard to win the title and the trophy, dear boy. That's yours to take home. And look, congratulations, Allan, Chris, Dean. You've provided us with the tightest competition of the series. And that must be the most fitting way to end the series with this particularly tight competition. We couldn't ask for a better finish. Until next time, good night.